welcome to the Escapart podcast. My name is Stuart Powell. As ever, you can listen to us on YouTube, on Buzzsprout, and also on Stitcher. So please sit back, relax, and if you have the opportunity to download this and listen to it as you walk around, please do so. The Escapart podcast is nothing but mobile. Today we're talking about strength, and not just strength of personality, strength to make you get up in the morning, physical form, physical brute force. And people often ask, what has that got to do with escapology? There is actually a great deal of strength that goes into escape work, and not only to present but also to create the impression, create the illusion of the struggle that we go through. However, we don't often talk about strength performers as escape artists, even though we have the same style, the same methodology. A magician can transcend. A magician can be supernatural. It can be he or she can be Morgana or Merlin or Wonder Woman or Superman. They are supernatural beings. They are beyond what is natural. Escapologists and strength performers are very human. That is the whole point of watching them. They are taking something ordinary and producing something extraordinary, but using only what they have been given by nature. They can enhance it by going to the gym. You can enhance it by taking certain supplements, but they are human. And that leads us on to let's go for two very famous escapology feats performed by strongmen or people who we don't consider to be escape artists. The first is going right back in time in the UK to a man by the name of Jack Shepherd, and he is the archetypal Harlequin. He is the apprentice turned bad. He fell out with the person he was an apprentice to. They fell out over his love of a girl. What a surprise. Why don't we see more of that in drama? But equally, he turned to crime to pay his way. He had no other source of income. And his great theft were stealing belongings from people's houses. He was a carpenter, but that in those days that included making door locks. So he was able to bypass a lot of door locks in London and was able to go in and take goods that didn't belong to him. Back in those days there wasn't a police force. There were specific people who billed themselves as thief-taker general or the thief-taker par excellence or whatever title they wanted to grant themselves. But it was up to them, it was up to a private citizen to take someone before the magistracy or the judiciary. And it was that separation between prosecution and law enforcement that led to the creation of the Peelers, which it became the Metropolitan Police Force, which became the first established police force in the world. And it was because of that level of separation that people were able to take advantage of the man in the street, and there was a great social outcry at the same time as Jack was incarcerated. He became famous because he broke out of prison, and he became famous for it. In fact, until Defoe wrote the definitive biography of Jack Shepherd using interviews with Shepherd in prison, everyone thought he had a supernatural ability. But it turned out all he was doing was using the skills he developed in woodwork, in metalwork, and his knowledge to bypass the locks. Even in prison, he bent bars. So he was using physical human strength, but people were attributing to him supernatural powers. I suppose, trying to explain it, the modern equivalent in popular fiction would be the amazing feats of Jason Bourne or James Bond, or potentially Bruce Wayne as Batman. Bringing it full circle, you then have another performer who performed under the name of the Iron Samson, and his name was Alexander Zass. Alexander Zass was a cavalry officer in the Great War, the First World War, and he was famous because his horse was injured. It was shot out from under him, and he carried the horse back to his lines. Let's just make that clear. A human being picked up an animal, a horse, and carried it back to his own lines. that gives you some idea that this man wasn't exactly a shrinking violet when it came to physical strength. That was reinforced when he broke out of prisoners of war camps by bending the bars. We often see it in cartoons where someone has bent the bars in the prison in a jailbreak escape. Well, this is what he physically did. He also broke manacles. He would be locked to the wall and he would break the chain off of the wall. He would break the manacles off of his wrists. And it was this style of near superhuman strength that enabled him to escape. And again, this is just a human being. In fact, Szasz frequently gave credit to calisthenics or isometric exercises for how he gained his physical strength. And when you think about that, when you look at how we have developed, how we have grown in size, in training, in physical form, there should be no reason why strength and escapology are not able to work collaboratively together to produce a wonderful, entertaining show. And that's what I'm working on. That's what a lot of people are working on. And yet people say, well, will it even work? And I challenge that. I would go further and say, well, we do it all the time. Houdini, there's a quote attributed to Houdini, and he said sometimes the great skill wasn't getting out of the cuffs on time, it was making sure they didn't come off too soon. And that is something that, as a performer, we have to judge, we have to measure, we have to be able to achieve that. And that's the distinction. And it's a distinction that can only be described as the difference between something being fixed and something being fake. A boxing match can be fake, in which case everything is rehearsed, everything is performed, there is no risk to the people involved. A boxing match can be fixed, where an outcome happens at a certain time. Now, if someone's asking you to get involved in a fixed boxing match, and someone's saying, don't worry, the other guy will lie down for you in the 8th round, you've got a bit of a problem because you've got 7 rounds to go through where he will be hitting you for real. And that, in a way, is the trouble with escapology. Everyone accepts it as being fake. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's only fixed. And the fix is you know what you're doing to get out of the restraint. You know what you're doing to bypass that cuff. But you've got to get to that cuff, and you've got to do things to get past what are in your way. And that comes back to the strength to do it. And it's not just physical strength, it's the strength of will, the force of will. Or, as the poster in the gym I used to see, believe and achieve. Thanks for listening. I'm Stuart Bold. The next podcast will be along shortly. Thank you for your time. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do listen in on Buzzsprout, and do continue to listen on Sticker. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you for listening to the Escapart podcast.